Number 10, Symbiote Spider-Man. Obviously we have to start off this list with a classic. Introduced in 1989's What If Volume 2 Number 4, we're given a glimpse into the life of Earth 1089's Peter Parker after his suit bonded with the Venom symbiote. In this reality, the symbiote couldn't be removed from Peter Parker even though the Fantastic Four and other heroes tried using a combination of magic and science. It ended up taking over Peter's mind and body, feeding off his adrenaline, causing him to age at a very rapid rate. Once his body couldn't sustain the symbiote any longer, it used him to possess superheroes like Hulk and even caused the death of a few others. Free from the symbiote's control, it's then revealed that Peter Parker has now aged to 85 with not a whole lot of time left. He was later found dead by Mr. Fantastic, surrounded by research on how to kill the symbiote that he was once bonded to. Although it was out of his control, Symbiote Spider-Man was considered even worse than Venom, one of the most sadistic villains in the Marvel Universe, and unfortunately he never really got that redemption. Number 9, Peter Parker, Earth 9591. Now we're all familiar with the origin story of Peter Parker, spider bite leads to powers, leads to the birth of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but have you ever wondered what it would look like if things took a bit of a different turn after that spider bite? Well, wonder no longer, because in 1995's Ruin Number 2, we're actually introduced to a different Peter Parker who isn't so lucky. After being bitten by the radioactive spider, Peter develops a total of 0 powers and is instead infected with a mutant virus that ultimately leads to his death. This Earth never gets the chance to meet the hero Spider-Man, and instead they're given a rash and scar-covered Peter Parker who was forced to live the remainder of his life in quarantine so he wouldn't infect anyone else. I always wondered what would happen realistically after that spider bite, but man, I really didn't think it would be that dark. Number 8, Ghost Spider. Now, this is one of my favorite costumes in the Spider-Man PS4 game, so I had to add it to the list. On Earth 11,638, Peter's Uncle Ben wasn't ever murdered and actually helped him hone his skills as the Amazing Spider. Despite this, he doesn't always use his abilities and intellect for good, and thanks to the resources from his lab, Parker Technologies, the Amazing Spider found a way to bring over other Spider-Men from different universes and absorb their powers. After bringing Earth 616 Peter Parker into his universe, the Spider is convinced by him that what he's been doing isn't heroic at all. Then, when Ben is about to absorb Earth 616 Peter's powers, we see the Spider stand in the way and instead had his powers absorbed, putting his body into a comatose state and trapping his spirit in hell. Following the Sorcerer Supreme's fight with the Infernal Hulk, we see Peter given a second chance at life after he was infused with the spirits and powers of the repentant damned. Now possessing powers similar to Ghost Rider along with his Spidey powers, he awakes from his coma as the Ghost Spider and uses his second chance to correct some of the mistakes he's made already. Check him out in his first appearance in 2011's Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 38. Number 7, Superior Spider-Man. Following an insane life that deserves a read if you're not familiar with it already, Otto Octavius transplanted his mind into the body of Peter Parker, leaving Peter in his body. Still retaining Peter's memories, he was able to trick all of Peter's loved ones into thinking nothing was wrong. Otto believed that he could be a better Spider-Man and, following the death of Peter Parker, took up the role as the Superior Spider-Man, upgrading the spider suit to better fit his needs. Many battles ensued, and then it's revealed along the way that Peter's consciousness still lived on inside his body, and after the Goblin King kidnapped Anna Maria, Otto's love interest while in Peter's body, Otto begins to hesitate to save others as he has a chance to save her and doubts he can save everyone without having time to plan. Peter's consciousness pushes him to save the child who is also in danger at the same time, and Otto realizes that Peter is more deserving of the role of Spider-Man and completely erases his consciousness so that Peter can take control of his body once more and save everyone. He sacrificed himself for the girl he loved and the man he hated for the greater good, and that just goes to show you that even if you start off as a villain, you can change and become a hero. Now there's a lot more to the story that I had to gloss over or skip, so I highly recommend you check out the story for yourself, starting with The Amazing Spider-Man number 697. Number 6, Doppelganger. The evil, pretty much mindless duplicate of Spider-Man from Earth 616, this version of Spider-Man was created by Magus during the Infinity War. Although he was killed during the Infinity War, this 6-armed Spidey clone was later revived by the Demogoblin, becoming its pet for a while. Doppelganger appears a few more times after the aftermath of the Infinity War, teaming up with Carnage, Shriek, Carrion, and the Demogoblin during the infamous Maximum Carnage killing spree, and then is later seen as part of the Spider Army to help defeat Morlun and the other inheritors. Unfortunately for him, after many adventures, the Doppelganger was eventually captured and imprisoned in the rebuilt Ravencroft. Possessing many of the same powers as the original Spider-Man, what really sets Doppelganger apart is his raw strength, being able to lift up to 25 tons as opposed to the normal 10 that most other Spider heroes can lift. Why not check him out for yourself in Infinity War number 1.
Number 5. Tony Stark from Earth 2122. Now, there isn't a whole lot known about this version of Iron Man, but from what we do know, he's pretty dark compared to the original. For instance, He kills innocent people. Yeah, okay, that is something the original Tony would not do. Yeah, he has killed people, but not innocent people. I mean, at least not intentionally. In this world, the British won the American Revolution and control North America. And in this world, Tony is a part of the group called the Sons of Liberty. Number 4, Zombie Iron Man. So in the comic series Marvel Zombies, Iron Man is, well, the zombie. He attacks Silver Surfer at one point, but then is sliced in half by one of Silver Surfer's energy blasts. Since he is a zombie, he's not dead. He ends up eating some of the Silver Surfer's body and gains some of his abilities. With just gaining these new powers, and with the arrival of Galactus, Iron Man and some others fly up and eat Galactus. Yep, they straight up eat him. They gain his powers and form a group, the Galacti. Number 3, Iron Patriot, the comic version. So, in the comics, the government wants Norman Osborn to basically recreate the Avengers team. Yeah, you heard that right. Friggin' Norman Osborn. So he creates the Dark Avengers, and leads it as the Iron Patriot. Basically a combination of Iron Man, but with Captain America's colors. Now, the MCU did a version of the Iron Patriot, but they did their own spin and made Rhodey the Iron Patriot, and he did work for the government. Eventually, the Dark Avengers declare war on Asgard. Asgard is currently just hovering over a spot of land on Earth. With the siege of Asgard underway, Norman wants to use Sentry's evil side, Void, as a secret weapon to take the Asgardians down. He manipulates Sentry to allow Void to take over his body, and in the end, Norman is imprisoned on the raft. But, you know, he never stays there for very long. Number 2, Iron Maniac. Iron Maniac is from an alternate universe, Earth 5012 to be exact. In this world, almost all of the other Avengers were killed by a Super Skrull. Also in this world, Tony became more and more crazy as time went on, with a lot of it happening because of the loss he experienced. In this world, he also ended up becoming obsessed with Reed Richards, who he believed was becoming too power hungry. Tony became more unhinged, even killing that world's Black Widow and Wolverine. But that's not all, folks. He then took on the Fantastic Four and killed Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, after Johnny permanently scarred Tony's face. Reed eventually found a way of stopping him by sending him to another Earth, the main Earth, Earth 616. Number 1, Ultron, MCU version. So in the MCU, Ultron is created by, you guys guessed it, Tony Stark. After the events of the first Avengers, Tony is still dealing with the trauma of that alien invasion. He wants to make sure that if there is ever another attack, the world will be prepared. So, Tony starts the Ultron program, using the Mind Stone from Loki's scepter. At first, they just look like variations of armor that Tony has worn in the past, but controlled with his AI, basically to protect Earth against any threats to it. But Ultron deems the human race as the greatest threat against Earth, so instead of protecting the humans, he's going to wipe them out. Yeah, that's kind of dark. He was doing this initially with assistance from Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but Ultron's plan was coming together. His second form was made from vibranium. His plan was to lift up a city in Sokovia and allow it to come crashing down like a meteor to wipe out humanity. Obviously, the Avengers were able to stop him, and he was destroyed by Vision in the end. Number 10, Old King Phoenix Thor. So some people say that this would probably be the most powerful version of Thor. And oh boy, it's probably true. Imagine Thor with his own powers, but also the power of the Phoenix Force. That's when you get Old King Phoenix Thor, who just also looks really, really cool. This Thor is a lot older and wiser, but ends up getting defeated by Wolverine, who was harnessing the power of the Phoenix Force. But then Wolverine ends up getting killed by Dr. Doom, and it is given to Thor. And I mean, the rest is history. Number 9, Rogue Thor. Okay, so this version of Thor comes from Marvel's What If series. Something a lot of fans will become a lot more familiar with because they're making a Disney Plus series about it, with MCU characters, which will actually be really cool. So, this one tells the story about what if Rogue, the X-Men, had the powers of Thor. In this story, Rogue ends up killing Thor by absorbing his powers and then kind of goes evil. I mean, she goes on a killing spree, killing a lot of people. It's not all bad though. She doesn't stay evil forever. I mean, the spirit of Thor eventually convinces her to use her powers for good, and she does. But come on, she went crazy, and it happened, but just not in the main continuity, of course, because that would just be really, really dark. Number 8, Frost Giant Thor. Okay, so Frost Giant Thor comes from Marvel's What If series, and during it presents the idea of what would have happened if Odin got killed by Laufey and raised Thor himself. Loki and Thor still are not really close in this version, but Loki's kind of the good guy. He wants to leave and go to Earth, but Thor doesn't want that and tries to stop him, and he accidentally ends up killing his mother, Frigga. Thor is devastated by what he's done and ends up letting Loki go, and Loki lives a nice life on Earth. I mean, it's pretty dark for Thor, but at least Loki got a happy ending this time. Number 7, Hellbound Thor. Hellbound Thor isn't from Marvel's main Earth. He comes from Earth 5113, or also known as the Dormammu-verse, which is named after, yes, Dormammu from Doctor Strange. In this universe, Dormammu is the ruler and has turned Thor, plus a lot of other famous Marvel heroes, into his minions, who will do anything for him. They all have new looks, and this version of Thor is very, very different. He's like really straight up scary. Now, he wasn't a big part of this story, so there's not a lot of information about him. But look-wise, he has his classic suit, but with a demon face, but he has all of his normal powers. Number 6, Thor Ryan. Sometimes Marvel and DC cross over. It happens, and one time they did, some of their heroes worked together. This was the case with Thor and Orion, to form Thor Ryan. He was super powerful, and get this, he is the son of Thanos. That's Thanos and Darkseid merged together. Like, that's so cool, and is probably the scariest villain combo you could ever have. But this isn't technically canon, it's in its own universe, but it was pretty cool to see. And it's always a treat whenever Marvel and DC decide to work together. Hopefully we see more of it in the future.
Number 5, Captain Mar-Vell. Hailing from Earth 1610, or better known as the Ultimate Marvel Universe, we have Genis-Vell Halasun Mar-Vell, the Ultimate Captain Marvel. As a member of the Kree race, he underwent massive nanosurgery to appear human, going undercover as the physicist Dr. Philip Lawson to investigate the human race. Growing fond of humans, Vell joined S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ACES program to speed up humanity's progress to the stars. Thanks to his cyber surgery, Vell is able to change between his original form and human forms, and he can actually be changed out of this against his will into his original form if the cybernetics are tampered with in some way, but this issue can be resolved by itself with time, or he can resolve it. It just depends on how bad it is. Well, in his battlesuit, like the other Captain Marvels, Vell is capable of flight and can create energy shields when needed. Now, like many of the alternate Captain Marvels, he doesn't stick around for too long, as during the launch of a space mission in Cape Canaveral, Mar-Vell received information that part of the Galactic Swarm had arrived on Earth. He fought the Swarm in Bermuda and found himself allied with the Silver Surfer and Nova. When Galactus targeted the Kree homeworld Hala, Captain Mar-Vell fought the creature until he was grievously injured by the Swarm. He died of his injuries on Hala and has not been revived or seen since. Check him out in his first appearance in 2005's Ultimate Secret #1, and let me know what you think of the character in the comments below. Number 4, Noh-Varr, or Marvel Boy. A member of the Kree race in an alternate reality, Noh-Varr is the son of Captain Glory and Star Splendor. His DNA is actually interesting and adds a weird layer to his character because it was altered with cockroach genes to include some insect properties like wall crawling and super hearing thanks to a membrane that covers his skin. With the powers you would expect from the Kree race such as super strength, speed, agility, and durability, Varr was also injected with nanobots, allowing him to extend his fingernails and create bombs out of them. As a member of the 18th Kree Diplomatic Gestalt and the Young Avengers, we have seen Varr go up against some terrifying villains across the galaxy, such as some major Skrull impersonators and Kang the Conqueror. In his most recent appearance, the Guardians of the Galaxy recruited Marvel Boy in order to stop the mad gods known as the Olympians. Together they decided their best hope was to use his pocket battlefield to destroy Olympus' engine. Nova and Phyla-Vell would distract Zeus, while Moondragon would hide their presence to accomplish this. However, Artemis and Hermes discovered them, derailing their plans. When Hermes attacked Moondragon, Marvel Boy incapacitated distracted god, and now we're kind of left waiting to see what happens next. But in the meantime, why not familiarize yourself with Marvel Boy, starting with his first appearance in 2000's Marvel Boy Volume 2, #1. Number 3, Carol Danvers. Now hopefully we all know who this version of Captain Marvel is, as she has been around for a while now and has played a big role in a decent amount of storylines for Marvel. Born to Marie and Joe Danvers, Carol is a half Kree, half human, all-powerful woman who you do not want to mess with. As Captain Marvel, she possesses an incredible amount of powers, including but not limited to flight, super strength, energy manipulation, and even has some regenerative powers. Before becoming Captain Marvel, she was a part of the Air Force and intended to become a pilot. However, after she obtained her powers from Mar-Vell, after the Psyche Magnetron fuses her DNA to his, awakening her latent Kree powers, she pretty much becomes a hero full-time, and well, the rest is history. As a member of the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Alpha Flight, and more, this Captain Marvel is a serious badass, and I would not recommend getting on her bad side. Now, I'm sure we all know where to find Carol Danvers, but just in case, check her out in her first appearance in 1968 Marvel Superheroes #13, or if you'd rather see her on the big screen, check out Brie Larson in her portrayal of the character in the Captain Marvel movie, another one that I haven't seen yet. Number 2. Phyla-Vell. The daughter of Mar-Vell and brother to Genis-Vell, Phyla-Vell is an insanely powerful being. Having previously destroyed and recreated the universe, she was the second artificially created offspring of Captain Mar-Vell, was created by her mother Elysius in the new universe because her first attempt, Genis-Vell, had been so successful. Thanks to her Kree/eternal hybrid physiology, she possesses superhuman levels of strength, speed, and endurance, and on top of that, she has vast cosmic awareness and is able to manipulate the quantum zone force to do basically whatever she wants. Throughout her run in the Marvel Universe, she has been seen fighting in conflict with some ridiculously powerful beings such as Annihilus, and even her own brother Genis-Vell when he went insane and she tried to take over the mantle of Captain Marvel. Later on, we see her join Star-Lord's new Guardians of the Galaxy alongside Marvel Boy, Moondragon, and Rocket Raccoon, where she eventually agrees to become the new Avatar of Oblivion. Now known as Martyr, she was much more aggressive than ever before, and unfortunately, that led to a bunch of events that made up her death. In her final moments, she heads towards the cocoon expecting Magus to be inside. However, before her very eyes, a resurrected Thanos emerges from it, killing her and sending her off to hell. Now, if you're interested in this character, check her out in her first appearance in 2004's Captain Marvel Volume 5, number 16. And finally, number 1, we have Genis-Vell. After falling out with Captain America, Rick Jones found himself mentally drawn to a pair of extraterrestrial golden bracelets known as the Negabands. With those bands, his atoms joined together with that of the original Captain Mar-Vell, and they lived together in a shared existence. Captain Mar-Vell unfortunately perished from incurable systematic cancer, and as Rick slowly began to move on with his life, eventually getting married, Mar-Vell's love, Elysius, felt more alone than ever. Using titanium science, Elysius sampled some of Mar-Vell's genetic structure to conceive a child, Genis. To protect him from Captain Marvel's enemies, Genis was artificially aged to maturity and taken to an isolated world where he could be safe from any harm. Now, upon discovering his true lineage, Genis donned the Negabands worn by his father and was determined to carry on his father's heroic traditions. With all the powers of his father before him, coupled with his vast cosmic awareness and ability to interact with his alternate selves, Genis is arguably the most powerful Captain Marvel to date. During his time with the Thunderbolts, Genis' powers seemed to rage out of control to the point where his Negabands were actually absorbed into his body, and he was continuously drawing more and more energy into himself, and he got to the point where he was so powerful that Zamo used the Moonstones to kill Genis by sending his body parts into separate parts of the Dark Force dimension so that they could never be rejoined. Now, obviously I did have to skip over a lot of cool stuff when it came to this character, so why not check him out for yourself in his first appearance in 1993's Silver Surfer Annual number 6.
Number 10, 1602. The Matthew Murdoch belonging to Neil Gaiman's 1602 alternate Earth of 311 is known as the Bard. He pretends to be a helpless blind singer when really he is a dangerous adventurer who takes on jobs in exchange for large sums of gold. This version of Matthew is from Ireland and got his powers as a young boy when he ventured into a dark cave and discovered a glowing green substance which he tasted to try to figure out what it was. Cause that's what you do when you notice weird glowing substances. The substance gave him a fever and robbed him of his sight, but granted him other enhanced superhuman senses. At one point he threatens to kill King James if he ever attempts to attack Spymaster Sir Nicholas Fury again. Number 9, Old Man Daredevil. In the Marvel 1602 comic, one of the alternate realities that we also get to see into is the one that Captain America came from when he was sent back in time to 1599 Earth 490. It was his being sent back that created Earth 311, the alternate reality that the 1602 comics belong to. On Earth 490, Captain America stood up against the older dictator and president of the United States, Purple Man, who at the time was not just the president but also considered president for life. Other heroes tried to do so as well, but many of them were hunted down and captured, including an elderly Spider-Man and an elderly Daredevil. Both were presumed killed by President Kilgrave, while Captain America was sent back in time because Purple Man didn't even want a trace left of Cap. He wanted to avoid Captain America being made into a martyr, and to have him completely forgotten instead. Number 8, Dare the Terminator. Slade Murdoch is from the Amalgam Universe. She is the combination of Matt Murdock, Daredevil from Marvel, and Slade Wilson, Deathstroke from DC. She was a lawyer who struck out as a vigilante when she felt the system failed to uphold justice. Both her father and her mentor Winterstick took part in her training, and she took up the mantle Dare. Later, she was captured by the crime lord and New Gotham mayor, The Big Question, who experimented on her. It was during this time that she was blinded but gained superhuman senses. The Big Question called her a daredevil and gave her little devil-like horn implants to help her appearance match that nickname. Number 7. MCU Daredevil. The whole feel of the Netflix shows when it came to their depiction of heroes was way darker. In the Daredevil Netflix series, the show really tends to focus on the angle of Daredevil just being a normal dude. He's trained hard almost his entire life and he's a brilliant lawyer, but Matt Murdock is just a human trying to do his best to defend his own borough of New York. The only superhuman thing about him is his senses and how well he is able to see in his own way around him, despite being completely blind. In fact, his blindness is one of his strengths in the series, that and his insane willpower, which is shown through how many times Daredevil gets beaten down but always manages to get back up. Charlie Cox plays the role of Daredevil and Matt Murdock brilliantly in this darker, more gritty live-action reality. Number 6. Exiles. In the 2001 run of Exiles, we meet the Daredevil of Earth 181. We learn that this version of Matt Murdock for some reason works for Wilson Fisk as a hitman. After his adventures with the multiversal Weapon X team, Daredevil ends up being imprisoned in a crystal palace. After being freed though, he ends up back on his own Earth, where we get to see him gleefully return to working for the Kingpin, beating his target bloody in an alley. Wow, that's dark.
Number 5. US Agent. A huge shakeup for Cap came up in a bold 1987 storyline. When a government commission declared that Steve had to do their bidding to continue as Captain America, Steve was obviously resistant because, who says his ideals are necessarily going to line up with theirs? He decided to just quit the whole role altogether and the commission turned to John Walker to become the new Cap. However, he was much more brutal and short-tempered than our lovable Steve Rogers. Thanks to his power broker enhancements, Walker possesses basically all the same abilities that Steve has, not to mention he is a military trained fighter and also trained under the Taskmaster at one point to hone his gymnastic and acrobatic skills. A real breaking point for this character is when a group known as the Watchdogs took out his parents, causing Walker to experience extreme levels of grief and to go on a bloody rampage. These bad actions led him to being deemed unworthy of the Captain America name, and he soon after faked his own death and came back as the US Agent. As the US Agent, we have seen Walker as a member of the Dark Avengers, Omega Flight, Jury, and even the Watchdogs as an undercover agent. There is so much more when it comes to this character, so go check him out for yourself, starting with his first appearance as the Super Patriot in 1986's Captain America number 323, or just feel free to skip ahead to his time as the US Agent, starting with 1989's Captain America number 354. Number 4. Captain Hydra. You're probably thinking that I'm going to be talking about the time where it was revealed that Captain America was actually an agent for Hydra and the entire fandom just lost their mind when they saw the infamous Hail Hydra panel. Now, I thought it would be way too easy to include that dark version of Captain America and challenged myself to look for some other variants, but don't worry, if we do a part 2, I will definitely include him in that list. Enough with that tangent though, let's get back on track with Leopold Zola of Earth 85,826. Possessing the exact same powers and abilities of his 616 counterpart, aka Nomad, this version of Zola differs from him because he is a spoiled and arrogant brat who does literally whatever he wants. The Captain led Hydra's team of Avengers to capture Nomad and Captain America's daughter Ellie in order to end the remnants of the rebel movement which was resisting Hydra's rule in the domain of the Hydra Empire. He pulled no punches when doing this, killing anyone who got in his way, and even broke Nomad's spine during a one-on-one fight between the two. Check out Leopold Zola for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2015's Hail Hydra number 1. Number 3. Anti-Cap. With a name like Anti-Cap, you know this guy is going to be pretty dark. Not a whole lot is known about Anti-Cap, but according to his files, we know that he was enlisted in the Navy after the Oklahoma City bombing. He almost became a SEAL, but didn't pass the psychological test, and as a US Marine, he killed one of the biggest drug dealers around. But that's about it. At some point during his time in the Navy, he agreed to undergo an experiment that would basically make him the Navy's version of Captain America through something called the AVX patch. It worked and gave him similar abilities to Captain America, but only worsened his mental state, leading him to murder an admiral that was overseeing the project. He went AWOL after that, and Captain America and the Falcon were tasked with finding him before he could cause any more damage. After a long search, Captain America found Anti-Cap, and the two battled it out for a while, with Steve coming out on top. Defeated both physically and mentally, Anti-Cap chose to take his own life into his own hands and dropped in front of a moving subway train, ending his own life. Why not check this character out for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 2004's Captain America and the Falcon number 1. Number 2. Colonel America, aka Zombie Cap. Now I know you're all expecting this one to pop up on this list at some point. Like most of the other heroes from Earth 2149, very little is known about Colonel America's life before the zombie plague, but it can be safely assumed that it is similar to his 616 counterpart, with the only difference being an obvious rank change and the fact that Colonel America served as the President of the United States for almost a full term. During a battle with Sentry, Colonel America was infected with the zombie virus, and he is actually the one responsible for turning Spider-Man after he launched himself into the air and biting him. With an insatiable hunger, Colonel and the rest of the Avengers go on a hunger-fueled rampage. Skip ahead a little bit and we see Rogers alongside other zombies gain cosmic powers after devouring the Silver Surfer, but even the cosmic powers he gained couldn't prevent his death because during a fight with the Red Skull, he just straight up gets his brain scooped out. Fast forward another 40 years and we find out that the Colonel's brain is still very much alive thanks to the zombie virus, and it ends up being transplanted into Black Panther's dead son T'Challa. However, this turned out to be a terrible idea because Colonel America turned into a battle-crazed zombie that couldn't think of anything other than fighting and killing. His final fate was never actually confirmed, but it can be assumed that he died in one of the later battles that ensued between the zombies and the humans. Now, the Zombieverse is probably my favorite Marvel universe out there, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it too, so check out Colonel America in his first appearance in 2007's Marvel Zombies vs. Army of Darkness #1, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Number 1, Steve Rogers, Earth 11,326. Still the leader of the Avengers, even in this universe, this Steve Rogers is not the nice guy that we would expect, or at least he doesn't start out that way. With all of the powers and abilities of his 616 counterpart, Captain America of Earth 11,326 was recruited as a part of a team to hunt and kill all mutants. During a mission to the mutant stronghold Fortress X, he succumbed to a deep and primal bloodlust and just killed Mystique because he thought that she was a threat, only to find out she was actually protecting a group of mutant children from the dangers of the world. With her dying breath, she completely changes Cap's outlook on life by questioning if what he was doing was actually right and how he could have let himself go this far. Realizing his mistake, Cap called off the mission and took everything into his own hands, killing the Steel Corps in order to protect the mutant children from any more horrors. Alongside the other members of the Avengers, Cap fought to protect Fortress X but was killed by the Hulk. He redeemed himself in the eyes of the mutants enough to inspire them to continue the fight in his honor though. Now I put this Captain America at the top of this list today because it shows just how truly merciless a Captain America who has lost his values and humanity can be. Check him out for yourself in the Age of X storyline starting with 2011's Age of X Universe #1. Number 10, Bruce Banner, Earth 12,091. Now, not a whole lot is known about this alternate universe, but they do have a pretty crazy looking Hulk nonetheless. In this reality, Bruce Banner was mutated into the Hulk by undergoing some gamma radiation experimentation, so pretty standard so far, but his appearance is vastly different than the Hulk that we're familiar with. This Hulk is like an electric green color and is a bit more risque because he doesn't wear any clothes, which is okay I guess because he's got kind of, Ken doll in it if you know what I mean. Not to mention that he has 4 absolutely massive arms, effectively making him twice as strong as any other Hulk. After this transformation, he gained the reputation for destroying spaceships, and any attempts to stop him by Thunderbolt Ross were always thwarted. He attacked the hideout of Barracuda when the Punisher tried to gain information about the 6-fingered hand, and he killed a decent amount of the mercenaries hired to kill the Punisher, but was enraged by the leader's sonic device. The Punisher managed to escape before the Hulk could kill him, which you can assume he could have done very easily. Check out this monstrous Hulk for yourself in his first appearance in 2012's Space Punisher #2. Number 9, Skulk. Hailing from Earth 9602, the Amalgam Universe, Bruce Banner was a scientist experimenting with radiation, and one day an experiment he was working on went horribly wrong and fused him with the elemental entity known as Solomon Grundy, and he became known as the Skulk. With the powers of the Hulk and Solomon Grundy combined, you can probably figure out for yourself why this would be pretty scary. After a confrontation with Dr. Strange Fate showed Skulk that he could keep the Skulk in his human form with the use of magic. The Skulk agreed to work as an agent for Dr. Strange Fate in return for Strange Fate keeping Skulk in the form of Bruce Banner for most of the time. This version of the Hulk is actually a rather gentle soul because upon finding access, Bruce actually tried to have a conversation with him rather than immediately jumping into battle because he thought that Access seemed like a really lost and lonely child in the world. This didn't last for long though because it did get to the point where he transformed into the Skulk and attacked him with just plain old brute force. Skip ahead a little bit to a mysterious villain attacking the Amalgam Earth city by city, and Lobo the Duck awoke in the ruins of Manhattan and found himself as the last remaining survivor among the heroes. Now the Skulk's body was never actually found among the other heroes, but it can be assumed that he is no longer living. Check out this character for yourself starting with their first appearance in 1996's Doctor Strange Fate #1. Number 8, The Incredible Thing. In an alternate reality, Earth 295 to be exact, Bruce Banner never actually became the Hulk and mutants rule the world. In an effort to combat them, Bruce, under the order of Thaddeus Ross, is tasked with creating an army of super soldiers. However, all of his efforts fail. Banner moves to Europe not too long after and becomes a member of the Human High Council, the ruling body of the surviving human population. Oddly enough, Banner longed to become a mutant in order to escape being a second-class citizen, and caving into the moral low ground, Banner sold himself to one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse in order to experiment on mutants and eventually himself. The result of the experiment was the Thing, a gray Hulk variant that Banner could revert between at will. Ben Grimm and Sue Storm were the first to encounter the Thing, and Sue shot him in the side of the head. The Thing fled and turned back into Banner, but neither Sue nor Ben connected the two events together. Fast forward a little bit to when Bruce, alongside Tony Stark, is escaping the Earth's orbit, and we see humanity under fire from a bunch of missiles. They were able to destroy all except for one, an adamantium bomb that Bruce had invented himself. So, as the Thing, he jumped out of the spacecraft and diverted the bomb so that no one would have to die from it. Forcibly reverting back to his human form, he fell down to Earth and was captured by Apocalypse. After an unidentified period of time, he revolts against the Alphas and Apocalypse, but sadly this ended in his death. Check out this Bruce Banner for yourself in 1995's X-Universe #1. Number 7. Infernal Hulk. Are you familiar with Earth 11,638? It is an alternate universe that is seemingly a utopia because Spider-Man's loved ones are still alive, and Bruce Banner finally separated from the Hulk, and Wade Wilson never had to become Deadpool. However, he did end up becoming the villain Deathmask, but we'll just sort of, gloss over that one. After Bruce Banner became Dr. Banner, the Sorcerer Supreme of this universe, he separated himself from the Hulk and banished him to Hell, where he became the Infernal Hulk. When the Bruce Banner of Earth 616 traveled to this universe with Spider-Man and Deadpool, the Infernal Hulk was able to get free from Hell by trading places with the Hulk persona of Earth 616's Banner. He immediately went after Bruce, who was saved by Spider-Man and Deadpool. Together with his counterpart, Spider-Man and Deadpool, the Sorcerer Supreme Banner came up with a plan to defeat the Infernal Hulk once and for all by reversing the banishing spell and then snapping Bruce's neck before the Infernal Hulk could take control of his body. Check out this devilish Hulk for yourself in their first appearance in 2011's Deadpool Annual #1. Number 6. John Eisenhart. On Earth 928, the alternate Earth that is set in 2099, and it is a vastly different world than we are familiar with because the Age of the Heroes has ended and much of the world is run by violent and evil companies. Head over to Los Angeles and we meet John Eisenhart, the Hulk of 2099. John gained his Hulk-like abilities from the Knights of Banner, a cult that worshipped the original Hulk, who wanted nothing more than to create a new Hulk. Their Gamma gun accidentally fired and hit John, and he was transformed into a 12-foot tall Gamma beast with razor-sharp claws and fangs, a long tongue, and massive muscles. Hulk 2099 dedicated himself to defending the people from monsters like Draco and became a leader in a rebellion against them. After President Victor Von Doom's takeover of America, John stole a Gamma device from one of Doom's henchmen in order to keep it from Doom himself. Now this device was similar to the one that granted John the ability to transform into his Hulk-like form in the first place. Draco threatened John with a massive bomb placed directly on the city's fault line if he didn't turn the Gamma device over to him. In the ensuing battle, the bomb detonated and triggered a massive earthquake, and the earthquake set off the Gamma device that resulted in a massive explosion laying waste to the city. John emerged from the rubble, mutated even more so by the radiation emitted from the device. His mutation eventually did stabilize and he returned to his original form just prior to S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arriving in the region. While battling them, John seemed to perish, and well, that's the last that we've seen of him. Give his story a read for yourself in 1993's 2099 Unlimited #1. Number 5. Pestilence. In 2005's Cable and Deadpool #15, we see Deadpool dropped in Earth 5701 while on a search for Cable, where the supervillain Apocalypse has conquered New York and then changed 4 superheroes into his horsemen, one being the Spider-Man of this world. Alongside Famine, who's the Blob, Death, who is Archangel, and an alternate Cable known as War, they all serve under Apocalypse and aim to protect him at all costs. Now known as Pestilence, this 4-armed and 4-legged version of Spider-Man is not one you want to get close to, especially when you learn about his poisonous fangs and his hunger for human bones. Check him out for yourself and let me know what you think in the comments below. Number 4. The Other. In the 2005-2006 storyline of the same title, we see Spider-Man begin a transformation to his wild side. Peter began having these strange symptoms and dreams of Uncle Ben and spiders. Thinking he might be dying, Peter threw himself more and more into his crime fighting, especially against the scientific vampire known as Morlun, as Morlun wreaked havoc by beating Spider-Man so badly that he ended up in the hospital, and also by smacking Mary Jane around. Peter got to the point where he just couldn't take it anymore and reached his limits. In 2006 Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #3, we see Spider-Man pin Morlun down and kill him with a bite to the head. After what we all assume was Peter's death, we see Peter erupt from a cocoon with new powers and a newfound dedication to embracing his spider side that he refers to as the Other. Even though he embraced his dark side for a while, he does eventually come back to his senses and becomes the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man once more. Number 3. Patton Parnell. Definitely one of the scariest looking Spider-Men, Patton Parnell has been described as a sociopathic version of Spider-Man who made the exact opposite decisions that Peter had. Growing up with an abusive uncle, Uncle Ted, Parnell was always a bit of a weird one as he found joy in experimenting on animals and perversely spying on his next door neighbor Sarah Jane. Like other Spider-Men, Patton was bit by a spider, however, his body's reaction to it was a little bit different. Instead of turning into a superhero, he actually gained the ability to turn into a spider-like monster and started to seek revenge on those who had treated him poorly, starting with his uncle. He eventually leads Sarah Jane to his house and reveals his new form to her, and needless to say, she was terrified and not at all impressed. And then after a bite to the neck, the next morning we see hundreds of baby spiders coming out of Sarah Jane's neck. Thankfully, Parnell doesn't stick around for too long, as just after 3 days of having his power, he is drained of all his life force by Morlun. Check out this twisted story in 2014's Edge of Spider-Verse number 4. Number 2. The Spider. Showcased in the Exiles series, we're introduced to one of the darkest Spider-Men to date. On Earth 15, Peter Parker was a sociopathic mass murderer who was sentenced to 67 consecutive life sentences and merged with the Carnage symbiote before being recruited by the Timebreakers into the Weapon X team. Using none of his powers for good, the Spider joined the other members of the team to try to conquer the Earth instead of actually helping them, finding nothing but joy in killing and torturing. It took a blast from Firestar to end his reign of terror alongside the other rebels. What makes this version of Spider-Man so terrifying is that he's one of the few Spideys who actually keeps the symbiote his entire career. With the symbiote's powers combined with Peter's evil rage, this puts the Spider at the same power level as Carnage at his strongest point, making him a truly frightening foe. Why not check him out for yourself in 2002's Exiles number 12 so you can see just how truly merciless this killer is. Number 1. Zombie Spider-Man. Now, not a whole lot is known about Earth 2149 Peter Parker's life before the zombie apocalypse, but it's presumed that it was similar to his 616 counterpart. On his search for the Necronomicon, the presumed source of the zombie infection, Peter ends up getting bit by Colonel America, who is a zombie at the time, and becomes infected. With his mind still relatively human, he hurries home to try and get his Aunt May and Mary Jane to safety. However, with the virus spreading quickly through his body, he winds up killing and eating them both. Alongside the other superpowered zombies, they ate almost all life on Earth until they ate Galactus, which granted them all the powers of the Power Cosmic, which they used to travel the universe, eating other worlds in their endless search for more food. After 40 years of eating worlds, they finally returned to Earth, still hungry to find Reed Richards' dimensional portal so they could finally continue their quest. However, Spidey noticed that his hunger was completely gone. Regaining his sense of justice, Spidey alongside some other good zombies found themselves locked in a battle with the other zombie heroes, trying their very hardest to convince them that their hunger was also gone and they could become heroes once again. Now, there is a whole lot more to the story of Spider-Man, and I could honestly talk about it for hours. This entire zombie universe is amazing. So if you're interested in hearing the rest of the Spidey's redemption story, why not let me know in the comments below and maybe we'll dedicate the entire video to it. If you want to read the story for yourself, why not check it out in Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22 and Marvel Zombies vs. Army of Darkness number 1.
Number 10. Deadpool Dinosaur. Deadpool Dinosaur is a version of Deadpool that is a T-Rex. The main thing that indicates his Deadpool-ness is that he's wearing a Deadpool mask and is part of the Evil Deadpool Corps. The Evil Deadpool Corps are a group of villainous Deadpools originally led by an alternate Deadpool, Dreadpool. They aim to eliminate all Deadpools across the multiverse. Deadpool works to stop them and annihilate this villainous group in the story Deadpool Kills Deadpool with the help of his own good team of Deadpools, known simply as the Deadpool Corps. Deadpool Dinosaur is accompanied by his own Moon Boy, who looks a lot like Logan in the face if I'm being honest. Is this just me noticing this? This version of Moon Boy also fights from Deadpool Dinosaur's saddle with a big gun. The two are basically an alternate version of Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur, with of course some Deadpool mixed in there. Number 9. Deadpool. This version of Deadpool is basically a combination of former evil AIM leader MODOK and Deadpool himself. One can assume he has the brilliant mind of MODOK but also has the brilliant fighting skills of Deadpool, even with his tiny, disproportionate arms. Not only does Deadpool seem to fight with swords, but he also has 2 turret firearms on his head. While MODOK stands for mental organism designed only for killing, Deadpool supposedly stands for destructive engine of assassination, despite panpygoptosis, obsessed with opponent liquidation. Number 8. Venompool. In a story that is continued through various What If issues, we get to meet Venompool. Venompool is an alternate version of Deadpool from the alternate Earth of 90211. Here Deadpool ends up becoming bonded with the Venom symbiote during his time with the Beyonder, following a run-in with Peter Parker, who was bonded with the symbiote at the time. The symbiote leaves a defeated Peter Parker for Deadpool and bonds with him. Later on in his life, this is a path that leads Deadpool to end up killing all the heroes of his universe, whom he does not find attractive. He does let the attractive ones live. I guess that's something, I guess. Following a therapy session with Doc Samson, who this version of Deadpool also promptly kills thereafter, he realizes he needed to be true to who he was. This allowed Venompool to accept that who he was a massive jerk, and prompted him to use a weapon called the Retcon Expungifier to wipe out the entire universe. Basically, he's in the running for being the biggest jerk of all the Deadpool alternates. Number 7. Cesspool. We don't know that much about Cesspool. Like many of the darkest alternates of Deadpool, Cesspool was part of the evil Deadpool Corps. What we do know of him is that he has a terrifying appearance and mutation. He's completely covered in mouths with razor sharp teeth and uses these to try and devour his opponents. Yipes. This is like something straight out of a horror movie. Number 6. Galactipool. This alternate version of Deadpool was too dark for even main continuity Deadpool himself. Galactipool shows up just as we thought the fight was coming to a close between the Deadpool Corps and the evil Deadpool Corps. Galactipool is a combination of Galactus and Deadpool, and Wade wondered where in the heck the evil Deadpool Corps even found an alternate like this Galactus Pool. Fortunately, despite him likely having, I guess, some kind of intense cosmic power, alternate Deadpool, Lady Deadpool, manages to defeat Galactipool using the Deadpool Corps ship, B. Arthur. Sadly, this was the end of B. Rest in peace, B.
Number 5. Revenger Thor. Yeah, it's called the Revengers because I'm getting revenge and you're getting revenge. Do you want revenge? Okay, so that quote was from Thor Ragnarok, but that version of the Revengers doesn't have any connections to Revenger Thor. But I just wanted to put that quote in there because, yeah, it was fun. Alrighty, so Revenger Thor comes from an alternate universe, Earth 10011, also known as the Cancerverse. In that universe, Thor is part of a team called the Revengers. And as you guessed, they are evil. They are basically the evil counterparts of the Avengers, which is kind of cool. They end up getting defeated by Thanos, which is also pretty crazy since they usually end up defeating him. But in this version, or this universe, Thanos is the hero, and he saves the day. 4. Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill, a character that is very popular with fans and long overdue for a live action appearance. Beta Ray Bill is a character that is very popular with fans and long overdue for a live action appearance. If you are not familiar, Beta Ray Bill is an alien who was able to pick up Thor's hammer. No one was expecting it to happen, but it happened. He didn't keep it, obviously, but he did end up getting his own cool hammer. The whole thing started when Nick Fury sent Thor up to investigate a spaceship, and he ran into Beta Ray Bill, and the two of them were like, hey, fight. But during that fight, he picked up Thor's hammer. Now, he was teased in Thor Ragnarok, so maybe that means that the MCU is slowly leading up to an appearance? I mean, only time will tell, guys. Number 3. Zombie Thor. Need I say more? No. Number 2. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Zombie Thor comes from the Marvel Zombie series, which was written by Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman. It takes place on Earth 2149, and on that Earth, a zombie virus ends up infecting almost all the heroes and villains of the Marvel Universe. Thor is one of those heroes. So, he looked very cool and terrifying at the same time. But, one of the most interesting things about this version is that since he was technically dead, he was no longer worthy of Mjolnir. So, Zombie Thor didn't have it. He ended up getting his own hammer later on, but he didn't have Mjolnir, and that was something that I thought was very, very interesting. Number 2, Venom Thor. Yep, this one is real, like no joke. Venom Thor. Man, just the name is terrifying, because you know Venom Thor is a deadly combo. But, like Rogue Thor and all the other ones, this one happens during one of Marvel's What If stories. What if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man? In the story, Venom takes over Spider-Man, but then continues to take him over, and then Hulk. But of course, he doesn't stop there. He's like, maybe I should take over some more heroes. And he decides to take over Thor. Venom takes over Thor and gets all of his powers. I mean, imagine if this happened in the main continuity. Venom would be virtually unstoppable because he retains all of the powers he takes. So he would have the powers of Spider-Man, Hulk, and Thor. Who would be able to stop him? No one. He would just rule the earth forever. Number 1, Unworthy Thor. This is one of the coolest versions of Thor, like ever. The reason he is so different is because this is Thor when he is unworthy of Mjolnir. He has short hair, a massive battle axe, ripped clothes, and one arm. His other arm was chopped off by Malekith and replaced with Black Uru. This look was part of the inspiration for Thor's look in the film Thor Ragnarok, which was freaking amazing. This story really breaks Thor down and shows who he is without the hammer. Honestly, it really works, and stories like this help characters grow. And Thor, or known as son, learns a lot of valuable lessons during this arc, and becomes a better hero for it. I mean, he even fought Thanos during this comic, and it was pretty damn epic. Thor is just so cool. I can't wait to see where Marvel takes him next.
Number 10, Captain Last. You'll learn pretty early on in this list today that the Captain America legacy isn't always carried on by the most deserving. Sometimes it's taken up by a terrible warlord, and that is exactly what happened in this case. On Earth 13,153, humanity makes its last stand in the only place strong enough to survive, Brooklyn. The former Spider-Man Miles Morales leads the last of civilization into the future against the evil that is still very prevalent in the world. Captain Last is the leader of the One America Army, a group of militant scrappers based in the tri-state area following the Earth's decimation by the germs. Basing himself off of Captain America, Last also gains his powers from a super soldier serum, though it's not really explained when or how, and he wears a costume that resembles Cap's signature look, shield and all. Last and his army attacked a caravan carrying supplies from Jersey City to Brooklyn, but were defeated by Spider-Man and his allies. Somehow they were able to find a way to merge Captain Last with a germ, allowing them to break through Brooklyn's defenses and evade the city. Captain Last sought out and battled Spider-Man, but Miles used his powers of bioelectricity to kill the Captain once and for all. Check out this monstrous Captain for yourself in his first and thankfully last appearance in 2020's Miles Morales The End #1. Number 9, Captain Zelandia. A Captain America alternate hailing from Earth 616, Captain Zelandia is one of Arnim Zola's mutated clones of Captain America that was exposed to negatively charged gamma rays. Captain Zelandia possesses all the powers you associate with Captain America, such as superhuman strength, stamina, and agility, but they are all amped up a notch thanks to the gamma rays that they were exposed to. They also carry around a shield that resembles Captain America's, however it is a different color scheme, is made of an unknown material, and has sharpened edges that make it look kind of like a buzzsaw. This storyline takes place after Steve's return from Dimension 7, a world of mutates created by Zola where Steve had been trapped for 11 years. This storyline takes place after Steve's return from Dimension Z, a world of mutates created by Zola where Steve had been trapped for 11 years. Steve is awoken and tortured both mentally and physically by Captain Zelandia, so much so that Steve gets to a point where he's had enough and just impales Captain Zelandia with a shield. This didn't actually get rid of our Cap variant though, because he later resurfaces as the leader of the Unvengers, a team of mutated clones based on the Avengers including Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor. Check out this scary looking Cap clone for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2013's Captain America Volume 7 #4. Number 8, Captain Mexico. From Earth 1519, a reality where the Aztecs had never been conquered, comes a Captain America variant that is pretty freaking scary looking. Not a whole lot is known about Captain Mexico's background, but it is assumed that it's similar to Earth 616's Captain America because they seemingly have the same powers and similar gear. At some point, Captain Mexico found their way to Earth 616 and they were immediately caught and put in stasis by the Alternate Reality Monitoring and Operational Response Agency, or ARMOR for short. After a zombie Morbius was found to be impersonating his mainstream counterpart, he began infecting ARMOR agents left and right, turning them all into zombies. In this process, Captain Mexico was freed from stasis, infected, and began feasting on ARMOR agents as an ever-hungry zombie. After having his fill, he attacked Machine Man, who cut him in half, seemingly killing him. However, it was not confirmed, since he's a zombie and hasn't really made an appearance since. Give this zombie captain story a read for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 2009's Marvel Zombies 3 #4. Number 7, Steven Rogers, Earth 70,105. In the 5-issue limited series Bullet Points, we are shown an alternate reality where Dr. Erskine is killed the day before implementing the Captain America program. Still very sick and with no other option, Steve volunteered himself for another top-secret government project known as Project Iron Man, and I think you know what that means. Steve's body is bonded to a giant suit of armor that resembles the Mark I Iron Man suit, and with this suit he is able to fight for America in World War II. Thanks to this new outer shell, he is able to simulate the powers and abilities that his 616 counterpart gained from the super soldier serum. However, I feel this was a huge sacrifice because his skin was literally grafted to the suit. Years later, he was finally freed from the suit, but that did not last very long because he was forced back into it in order to fight Peter Parker, the Hulk of this universe. Bruce Banner is actually the Spider-Man in this universe. It's a really interesting and smart switch that the writers did, and I really liked it a lot. But anyways, sadly in this fight with Peter, Steve dies because of the sheer strength that the Hulk possesses. Highly recommend you give the storyline a read for yourself, starting with 2007's Bullet Points number 1. Number 6, Baron Blood. You're probably familiar with John Falsworth, the Baron Blood of Earth 616. You know, the young adult who got turned into a vampire by Dracula himself, and then had his body mutated and altered by German scientists? Good, I'm glad you know who he is, because that is not at all who I'm going to be talking about. I am actually talking about Earth 8101's Baron Blood, that hails from the Marvel Apes universe. Don't worry though, this Baron still possesses all of the powers and abilities of his 616 counterpart, and he is also said to be at the peak of gorilla physicality. Revealed to be the one who is responsible for the vampire invaders, he ambushed Captain America, took his form, froze him in an iceberg. Continuing to turn other inhabitants of this universe into zombies, he became the leader of the Ape-vengers, which, funnily enough, contained a lot of reformed supervillains. He secretly plotted to enter Earth 616 for further food, and to accomplish this, he killed his world's version of Mr. Fantastic to gain access to tech that would allow him to hop between worlds. During the final battle between the Ape-vengers and the Outcast, Baron Blood wounded Speedball, which forced Gibbon and Fiona to take Speedball with them to Earth 616. However, Baron Blood didn't end up making it too far because he was later killed by Ape-X. Check out the Ape-vengers and the Marvel Apes universe for yourself by checking out 2008's Marvel Apes number 1.
Number 5, Wolverinepool. What happens when you take Deadpool and Wolverine and mix them together? You get Wolverinepool. Wolverinepool comes from the alternate Earth of 1946. Wolverinepool is the ultimate Weapon X program weapon. He is a version of Wade Wilson who had adamantium bonded to his skeleton. He belonged to the evil Deadpool Corps and was killed during a fight with the non-evil Deadpool Corps. It is assumed that he, of course, has a healing factor, but not one strong enough to regenerate himself when reduced to just a skeleton, and likely a healing factor that was weaker than both the main continuity Wolverine and the main continuity Deadpool. Number 4, Redtool. Redtool is actually not from an alternate Marvel universe, but is actually from DC Comics. Oddly enough, while Marvel's Deadpool was created by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza to be a parody of DC's Deathstroke, DC then decided to themselves parody Marvel's own parody of their character, creating Redtool, who is a parody of Deadpool. He's a parody of a parody. Still, just because we are stuck in a weird perpetuation of parody doesn't mean that Redtool has to be a super light and fun character. Although he kind of is that too. Redtool is dark in the fact that he only fights with tools, including power tools, making his physical conflicts also appear a lot more gruesome than his Marvel counterpart. And he doesn't have a healing factor, instead, he just can't feel pain, due to having a part of his brain removed, which also makes him somehow even more disturbing of a character than Marvel's Deadpool. Pretty impressive actually. Good job, DC. Number 3, Headpool. Headpool is the version of Deadpool from the Marvel Zombieverse of Earth 2149. He is aptly named Headpool because in the end, that is all that's left of him. A head. But a head who is still very much alive, that is, and would still very much like to eat you. This version of Deadpool was also not confined to just existing in the alternate Earth of Earth 2149. He ended up making his way to Earth 616 while he still had most of his full body actually. He ended up making his way to Earth 616 while he still had mostly his full body actually. He was thought to have been completely decimated during a fight there, but it turns out he survived, but simply had lost the rest of his body and was now just a head. Number 2, Dreadpool. One of the darkest alternates around, Dreadpool is the version of Deadpool who appeared in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. He is from the alternate Earth of 12101, where he was driven even more insane than he already is. A therapist known as Dr. Benjamin Brighton attempted to brainwash Deadpool so he might use him for his own means. However, this failed, and instead ridded Deadpool of his standard inner voices, replacing them with a single voice. This voice in his head seemed fully aware that nothing in the Marvel Universe was actually real, and encouraged Deadpool to free everyone from this fictional prison or fictional reality by killing them all off, which Deadpool then proceeded to do. Basically, Dreadpool is from Deadpool's darkest timeline. Number 1, Evil Deadpool. Evil Deadpool is an alternate Deadpool from the main reality of Earth 616. He is sort of a Franken version of Deadpool, who was created by the deranged and psychotic Dr. Ella Whitby. Ella Whitby accidentally helped to create him from storing bits and pieces of Deadpool's body, which had been lost throughout his life while he fought. She collected these because she was obsessed with Deadpool. She was also madly in love with Wade. Though they were stored in her fridge, they were likely part of her shrine of collectibles of Deadpool. In the end, Deadpool found these parts in her her fridge and tossed them out. As they thawed in the garbage bag he disposed of them in, they came to life and rejoined together to create Evil Deadpool. A version of Deadpool that is evil and just an all-around complete jerk for the sake of being one, whose fighting skills rival the real Deadpool and who also has a backwards arm, which actually proves to be surprisingly useful in fights for him.
Number 10. The Captain. From Earth 616, we meet a not-so-bright man with a fairly dark past, and when I say not bright, I truly mean it because this guy thinks if you hit a leprechaun in the head, it will turn into gold coins. Now, although we don't know his real name, we know that growing up his mother was an alcoholic, and that is what led him down the path of bar hopping and bar fights. One night while on a long bender, two aliens cross paths with him, and for some reason they think he is worthy of some insane power, and bestow upon him the Messianic Sida Complex, which is the heart star of the space between galaxies. With his newfound powers and goal of turning Brooklyn into a better place, he is recruited by the Next Wave, the anti-terrorist superhero team. He apparently chose the name The Captain because all the other good names are taken, which is very fitting for his character. Sometime later, the Captain leaves Next Wave to live a quieter life, as it turns out he wasn't a huge fan of being a superhero, but when Nova crashes into Earth, he takes the mantle of the Captain once again to defeat the Mole Monster. Thanks to the Heart Star he obtained from those aliens, the Captain is seen with what is described as a generic set of special superhero abilities such as super strength, speed, stamina, durability, and flight. Now, since he doesn't possess many powers you normally associate with Captain Marvel, I put him at the bottom of the list, but don't worry, we have got some great characters coming up. Check out the Captain for yourself in his first appearance in 2006's Next Wave number 1. Number 9. Anna Marie. Anna Marie from Earth 9289 is a bit of an interesting character, and honestly I love it. When Rogue touched Miss Marvel to absorb her powers, Carol Danvers got in the way by grabbing onto her arm. Carol's Kree DNA ended up glitching Rogue's powers, and thanks to the prolonged contact, they both absorbed the memories, personality, and abilities of the other. With all the powers of Carol Danvers such as super strength, flight, energy manipulation, and so much more, this made for one frightening mutant Kree hybrid. After getting a serious power boost during their fight in space with Brood, Anna becomes the hero known as Binary in this world. This Rogue and Carol Danvers combination were briefly visited by Carol's counterpart from the Prime Marvel universe using the power of the Reality Stone, since the gem linked her to the wielders of the gem in other realities, with the wielder being Anna Marie in this case for this universe. So check out this hybrid mutant Kree for yourself in her first appearance in 2018's Infinity Countdown Captain Marvel number 1. Number 8. Marvin Elwood. Hailing from the Marvel Mangaverse, we have Marvin Elwood, the son of Captain Mar-Vell and Miss Marvel from Earth 2301. On his 13th birthday, Marvin was finally old enough to inherit his father's negabands. However, that was no easy task because they were actually hidden in a volcano of all places, and when he finally got them, this completed his transformation into the newest Captain Marvel. When wearing the negabands, Martin is given super strength and speed, interstellar flight, invulnerability, and so much more. Carrying on from where his father left off, Marvin's first mission was to take down Galactus, and with the help of the Fantastic Four and the Inhumans, who he meets on the way, Marvin is able to take down all the villains that stand in his way, and he eventually succeeds in destroying Galactus' core and saves his world from destruction. However, sometime later, it's not really stated how long it's been, the Hand ends up resurfacing in his world and starts taking out the heroes of Earth 2301, and Marvin is unfortunately one of them. Making his first appearance in 2002's Marvel Mangaverse number 1, check out his story for yourself and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Number 7. Number 96. Before the Skrulls sent their other, more well-known spies, they created 97 Mar-Vell sleeper agents, all considered to be failures except for, of course, number 97. Like the other 95 before her, number 96 was considered defective due to her several behavioral and genetic defects that had been accidentally given to her. Even though she is defective, number 96 still possesses these Skrull shape-shifting powers that allow her to transform into basically anything and take on their powers thanks to their unstable molecular structure. After the Skrull invasion on Earth, Mystique accidentally found the warehouse where all the defects were being stored and decided to bring 96 out of her coma so she could manipulate her into killing countless people. Mystique did this by disguising herself as Carol Danvers, which allowed the Mar-Vell clone number 96 to immediately trust her. After a while, 96 came to the realization that she was being manipulated, and this made her go a little bit crazy, and she beat Mystique into a coma. Due to these unstable emotions, she began to overload with radioactive energy, which caused her to detonate like a huge atomic bomb. But thankfully, the real Carol Danvers was able to swoop in and absorb the blast, so there wasn't too much damage done. Check out number 96 for yourself in her first appearance in 2010's Miss Marvel Volume 2, number 48. Number 6. Monica Rambeau. From our familiar Earth 616, we have Monica Rambeau, the current Spectrum. However, before her time as the new hero, she was known as Captain Marvel. She was once a lieutenant in the New Orleans Harbor Patrol. However, fate came upon her one day when she gained superpowers after being bombarded by extra-dimensional energy that was produced by an energy disruptor weapon created by a criminal scientist. Now classified as an alpha-level threat, she uses her newfound energy form to create energy blast, alter her appearance, fly, and so much more. Given the name Captain Marvel by the media, she befriended many superpowered folks early on and actually served as an Avenger for a period of time, becoming its leader at one point. However, she was forced to step down from the group after many injuries. Out of respect for Genis-Vell, who we will talk about a little bit later, who is the son of the original Captain Marvel, she changed her name to Photon so that he could take up the mantle and carry on his father's legacy. Fast forward a little bit past her time with the Mighty Avengers, we see Monica, now known as Spectrum, join the newly formed Ultimates. However, after the second superhuman civil war, the team was disbanded by the government because of the way they dealt with conflict. They did later reassemble though to investigate Eternity at the request of Galactus, and eventually the team was combined into Alpha Flight, and they're working to this day to keep people safe. If you want to know more about Monica's origin story, check her out in her first appearance in 1982's Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16.
Number 5. Undead Daredevil. This version of Daredevil comes to us from Earth 666. In this reality, everyone is undead. Here, Daredevil is part of the Undead Avengers, which is led by Brother Voodoo. He offers Captain Britain some blood of an innocent youth in the first few panels of his existence. Braddock, of course, politely refuses that offer. We don't know much about this version of Daredevil as he's only appeared in a few issues of 2010's Secret Avengers, but he looks and seems initially super dark. He himself actually seems to be some kind of demon or devil based on both his appearance and his behavior. Number 4. Daredevil 2099. There are actually two different versions of Daredevil 2099, one which shows up in 2099 AD Genesis. He is Eric Nelson and is believed to be related to Matthew's partner Foggy Nelson, but the other is related to someone far more sinister. In the Marvel Knights line Daredevil 2099 comic, Daredevil is actually Samuel Fisk, the grandson of Wilson Fisk, who wrestles with atoning with his family's criminal past while also being faced with inheriting that legacy as Kingpin. He uses the Daredevil persona to assuage his guilt over the source of the power that he wields as Kingpin. In this reality, Matt Murdock was also killed years ago by his nemesis Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk. Number 3. Kingpin. In the reality of Earth 65, which is also home to Spider-Gwen, aka Ghost Spider, Matt Murdock, instead of becoming Daredevil, ends up as Wilson Fisk's right-hand man and eventually takes over his role as Kingpin when his boss gets arrested. In this reality, Stick is killed by the Hand and they end up taking in a young Matt Murdock to train in their ways, turning him into a deadly assassin. He still gets a law degree when he returns to the States, but instead of taking up arms against the criminal underworld, he ends up joining it, working for Fisk, climbing the ranks until he becomes his Kingpin's chief advisor. Matt Murdock in this reality is an enemy to Felicia Hardy and Ghost Spider. Number 2. Keeper Murdoch. This version of Matthew Murdock is from Age of Apocalypse. Apocalypse took over Earth when Matt was just a child. He was put to work on Apocalypse Island and during his time there saved another human from a falling barrel of toxic waste. This toxic waste ended up granting him the superhuman senses we know him for, but Matt only suspected that the accident was responsible for blinding him, because this all happened around the time that he joined up to be part of the Upstart program, which gave him cybernetic enhancements. Ergo, he thought his abilities were granted to him by his enhancements, and by Mikhail Rasputin, one of Apocalypse's horsemen. As such, Murdoch became Rasputin's loyal and obedient servant. After he experienced a fraction of the world's suffering through making physical contact with the mutant empath, Murdoch would learn that his powers did not come from Rasputin, and that in fact, he had been manipulated for years into committing what were evil atrocities. Yeesh. Number 1. Daredevil. Daredevil only appeared briefly in a couple of issues. He is mentioned in Exciting X-Patrol and comes to us from the Amalgam Universe. Daredevil is known as the Man Without Life and appears to be a combination of Marvel's Daredevil, Matthew Murdock, and DC's Deadman, Boston Brand. Both their names are good old comic book alliteration. We don't know much about Daredevil, but can safely assume he'd have the combined powers of both characters. He is also known as the Man Without Life.
Number 10. Arno Stark. So, there are two versions of Arno Stark. The main one was when he was Tony Stark's long-lost brother, but I'm going to talk about the other one. In this version, Arno was the son of Morgan Stark, who was Tony Stark's cousin on Earth 8410. In this reality, Arno is extremely smart and helps run Stark Industries. He He ends up creating his own Iron Man suit and constantly uses it to help himself instead of others. He became a mercenary, killing lots of people, and he even used it to sabotage his business rivals, which is really sneaky. This dude would even kill just innocent people or anyone who didn't like what he was doing, and he would absolutely feel no remorse about it. Number 9, Andros Stark. Andros Stark is from the future and the grandson of, well, yep, Tony Stark. Basically, in the future, Tony Stark was trying to create an AI, Vortex, that was supposed to help protect humanity, but instead it affected computers, took control of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the internet. It then determined that humans were evil, and it tried to wipe all of them out. Does that sound familiar? Like, wasn't Ultron created to help humanity too in the MCU? And why do AIs always turn evil? Anyways, he traveled back to the past and basically tries to kill Tony to stop the future from ever happening. Well, the future ends up changing, but not because he ends up killing Tony. But I mean, if he killed Tony, that would wipe himself out too, right? So you always gotta think about this time travel stuff. You gotta think it through. Number 8, Steel Corpse. In the Age of X comic series, Tony got infected with some sort of virus that causes himself to permanently fuse with his suit. Yeah, it's really crazy. Basically, never being able to take it off. To make matters worse, his suit could function without Tony's will, and it was causing Tony to slowly die, since it was taking him over. Yeah, it's kinda dark. And when the Avengers were on a mission, at one point, the suit allowed an emergency override that was going to allow it to kill mutant children. Nothing Tony would do would be able to stop it, so he told Captain America to save the children, and Captain America shot Tony in the back of the head. Yeah, that was a pretty dark ending. Number 7, the infamous Iron Man. So, Dr. Victor Von Doom becomes Iron Man. Yeah, it's real, and I'm not joking. So, the man who was once evil turned good, kind of, with some help of Mr. Fantastic to help redeem Doom's soul. He does in fact turn good. Stark and Doom become close, but after the Battle of Civil War II, with Captain Marvel defeating and severely injuring Iron Man, Doom decides to become the infamous Iron Man to try to right the wrongs of his past. I know he technically isn't like super evil while he's doing it, but come on, he's Dr. Doom, so you never really know. He's always planning something. Like, it's Dr. Doom. Number 6, the Stark. An alien race. When the Martian Masters invaded Earth for the second time, Tony didn't want his armor or technology to fall into the wrong hands. He feared if they got a hold of it, they would be way too powerful to handle, so he launched all of his technology into space. Unfortunately, a few years later, the very rocket holding all of Tony's technology landed on an alien planet. This alien race didn't know what to make of this rocket. They were quite primitive. They started experimenting with the technology and learning everything they could about what was in the rocket. They even named themselves and their planet the Stark. I mean, that's dedication. With this new technology and armor, they were able to harness and they were able to conquer other worlds.
Number 5, Bruce Banner, Earth 9591. In the Marvel Universe, scientific accidents tend to lead to fabulous powers. However, in the real world, a scientific accident typically leads to serious injury or even death. After all, if a regular person were caught in the explosion of a gamma bomb, they definitely wouldn't gain green skin and super strength. Odds are they would just get probably really sick and die. With that in mind, let's meet Bruce Banner from the miniseries Ruins. Written by Warren Ellis, Ruins is a dystopian twist on the Marvel Universe, where everything that can and does go wrong goes wrong. In this twist on the classic origin story, Rick Jones is a morphine addict that wandered into the testing site of a gamma bomb. The heroic Bruce Banner rushes to save him and is caught in the blast of the bomb, but instead of becoming the Jade Giant, Bruce Banner is consumed with a mess of green tumors which tear Banner apart from the inside out. Much like the Peter Parker of this universe, Banner is currently believed to be held captive by the CIA for research purposes. Give the storyline a read for yourself in 1995's Ruins number 1. It answers a lot of questions that I personally didn't know I wanted the answers to. Number 4, Hulk Earth 2081. After a war which ended in a violent nuclear holocaust that wiped out all life on Earth, wanting to get away from the few remaining survivors, would return to the Gamma Cave in New Mexico, where he'd seal himself off with a boulder. Many years later, Bruce would free himself from his imprisonment by a recorder, who was sent to record the demise of humanity at the request of a number of races. Though Bruce at first assumed they wanted to learn from humanity's mistakes, the recorder then informed him that they just wanted to make sure that they were all actually dead. Though Bruce at first refused to believe that everyone was dead, asking if it was some kind of joke, he soon came to accept it. He would then ask the recorder if he was going to kill him as well to, be sure. And the recorder then asked Bruce if he wanted to die, to which Bruce then responded, no, why would I want that? Bruce spent the next several years wandering across the ruins of the old cities trying to remember what he could of the old world. Later, Bruce suffered a painful heart attack, and how much his punishment resembles that of Prometheus, the last titan, condemned to stay forever alive even while animals devoured him. As he died, the Hulk's persona arose in his mind. Banner would plead with the Hulk, begging him to simply let go of his conflicts, claiming that they were going to a paradise where all their dead friends were, where they could be happy. Hulk threw away his suggestion, thinking it was a trick, and because in his eyes, friends had always betrayed him. With Banner completely gone, the Hulk was left completely alone in an empty world. Check out this one-shot storyline in 2002's Incredible Hulk, The End. Number 3, Zombie Hulk. That's right, it's Jack talking about the zombieverse once again, my big favorite. In the world of Marvel zombies, the Hulk is the hungriest one there is. After an unnamed hero driven by the hunger crashes on Earth and infects the Avengers with a zombie virus, the world spirals into a zombie apocalypse. Once valiant heroes resort to stomach-churning acts to fulfill their craving for human flesh, and the world becomes a battle for the strongest for scarce resources. A roaming band of zombies composed of, or I guess decomposed since they're zombies, of former heroes such as Spider-Man and Wolverine, kill and eat their way across the planet with a zombified Hulk serving as the Twisted Team's muscle. The group eventually crossed paths with the Silver Surfer, who was subsequently brutally killed by the Hulk and eaten by the group, imbuing the zombies with the cosmic power, allowing the former heroes to take to the stars to eat their way across the galaxy. 40 years later, Hulk returns to the Earth to find a colony of human survivors in New York, known as New Wakanda. After Giant Man declared a plan to create a breeding program to have food for eternity, Spider-Man and Luke Cage rebelled and fought Tony and the others. A force field was activated, protecting Black Panther's stronghold and the survivors, but sealed Gladiator and an unconscious Bruce Banner inside and cut Luke Cage in half. Hulk eventually escapes, and after eating Reynolds, Hulk transformed back into Bruce and voluntarily was eaten by the zombies so that he could cause no more damage to anyone. You all already know that this is one of my favorite universes, so check out Zombie Hulk for yourself, starting with his first appearance in Marvel Zombies Dead Days, number 1. Number 2, Maestro. While the Hulk has traditionally served as a tragic anti-hero, the supervillain known as the Maestro serves as a reminder that the Hulk is really only one bad day away from becoming the most dangerous foe mankind has ever encountered. This alternate future version of the Hulk hails from a Earth ravaged by nuclear war. Driven mad by the death of his friends and from continued exposure to radiation, the Hulk christens himself the Maestro and appoints himself the ruler of this war-torn dystopia. Retaining the intelligence of Bruce Banner, but with the enhanced strength brought on from the radiation, the Maestro rules unopposed, splitting his time between torturing those who have crossed him and admiring his trophy room filled with the weapons and costumes of his fallen comrades. When the modern day Hulk is sent forward in time, he ends up clashing with his future self, eventually triumphing over the cocky Maestro. While the Maestro hails from a possible future, the Hulk lives in constant fear that one bad move could put him on the path to becoming this tyrannical ruler. Fast forward through some pretty cool events that you should definitely read for yourself, and we see the Maestro go up against Logan, who unsheathed his claws and just decapitates him. Give the story a read for yourself, starting with 2017's Old Man Logan, Volume 2, number 25. And number 1, Pappy Banner. This version makes me so uncomfortable, it's not even funny. So similar to his 616 counterpart, Bruce Banner of Earth 21,923 began as a hero, or as much of a hero that the Hulk can be. No one really knows how or why or when, but Bruce Banner had a very drastic shift in personality and became a villain, many believing it to be probably because of the prolonged exposure to radiation. When the villains took over in this alternate world, Banner joined in on the hero slaughter, eliminating Thor and so many others. Banner later took over a large portion of California and Nevada as his own and named it Hulkland. He also made the decision to mate with his first cousin She-Hulk and sired a group of inbred Hulks called the Hulk Gang. Through intimidation alone, they forced people living there to pay rent or face having their property taken and even death. One of the people that was extorted was Logan, who had become a pacifist at the time. Then one day, the Hulk Gang killed Logan's family, causing him to abandon his pacifist beliefs, and in anger, Logan killed almost the entire Hulk Gang and its leader, Pappy Banner. Understand why this Hulk makes me so uncomfortable? If you feel like you've got it in you, check out Pappy Banner for yourself in this first appearance in 2015's Old Man Logan, number 4.